All right, Ellis Cinema back, another dish. How we doing out there? Good, great, gray, and wonderful. As you see on your screen, your dial, however you're choosing to join us today, I know the cast and crew appreciates you. Well Go USA. Well Go USA presents The Last Stop in Yuma County. The Last Stop in Yuma County, playing in select theaters all across the U.S. right now, or if you're, don't like to do the whole communal experience, even though that upsets me. If you're a listener of the show, I want you to go out to the theater. If you can't go to the theater, if it's not around you, it's also streaming on Fandango at home right now, and the Blu-rays are available for pre-order on Amazon Amazon right now. Right now, this is why I don't edit, gang. They need to see all my imperfections. But please go out to the theater if it's close to you. If it was just out of my driving range, it was about 6.5. Otherwise, I would have made the trip because I was bummed that I didn't get to experience this in the theater. So for fuck's sake, go out, support the theater. So what is Last Stop in Yuma County? While awaiting the next field truck at the middle of nowhere Arizona rest stop, a traveling young knife salesman is thrust into a high stakes hostage situation by the arrival of two stranded bank robbers with no qualms about using cruelty or cold hard steel to protect their blood-stained, ill-begotten fortune. And that is the fucking truth. Holy Richard Brake and Nicholas Logan. This film stars Jim Cummings, Joceline, Donahue, Richard Brake, Nicholas Logan, Faizon Love, Michael Abbott Jr., Sierra McCormick, Ryan Masson, Gene Jones, who I thought lost everything on a coin toss, apparently not, Robin Bartlett, John Proudstar, Alexandra Essoe, Sam Huntington, Barbara Crampton, the resurgence of Barbara Crampton. I watched 2 films in the last week and a half with her, and Connor Paolo. From the crew side of things, we have production design by Charlie Textor, art direction by Adam Gascho, music by Matthew Compton, which I thought just added another layer to this film. What else we got here? Just when you have someone dueling as a cinematographer and a colorist, I don't think you know what kind of dividends that pays, gang. But scoring the hat trick at the end of the day, there's editor, writer, director, Francis Galluppi, and as most of you know, I can't stand doing the show unless I have someone to talk to or until this show gives me dental. Anyway, today I shan't be doing this alone. Joining the Ellis Cinema podcast for the very first time, Francis Galluppi, writer, director, editor. How are you, sir?
Hey, how's it going, man? Thank you for having me. Thank you for mentioning a lot of the crew and cast. That was awesome. And for telling your listeners to go watch it in a theater. That means a lot, man.
I mean, I think far too often we get drawn to the stars in the film, right? But
Yeah,
people
yeah.
don't understand just how much goes in on the backside of thing. Like I told you before we started rolling, we got a lot of aspiring filmmakers that listen to the show, and I think as good as the cast is, the crew is meeting their level of execution on this, and I just didn't want that to go unnoticed. But
Oh,
before we
totally.
started with the last stop in Yuma County, I just wanted to ask you, how are you? Just you, the person, Francis.
Well, I'm doing great. I'm very tired. But it's all really great, man. I all the things that came out of making this movie were just so unexpected. I didn't really think any one of these things was going to happen. I just kind of set out to make a movie with my friends, and then didn't really think about like, is it going to get good reviews? Is it going to set me up for the next thing? And it's done amazing things. And today's been so. Today it comes out today, so I started writing this script 4.5 years ago when my wife was pregnant with our daughter, and now 2 kids later, it's finally out. It's been 4.5 years of my life of um, every day is the last stop in Yuma County. I'm doing something with the movie, right? Like my daughter's first words were like "da da da Yuma County," like she, right? Like it's like it has been the longest fucking journey, and so it's a really good feeling to have it just be out in the world. It's
Well, then
weird.
I
So,
do apologize because I'm sure at this point you're like, all right, 4.5 years. I like, yeah, yeah, I know
no,
it's good. I know it's good. Let's put this behind me. It's time to like move on to another
no,
thing.
no, no. Well, that's the weird thing, right? It's like it's that sort of making films. It's like you're constantly kind of going back and forth between solidarity and then like complete chaos. So it's like you write and you're just like by yourself in your office, like kind of prisoner to your own thoughts, and then like you get the movie made, and then all of a sudden you have to be like a business guy, right? I'm like, I got a money in here, and it's this just chaotic thing, and then you get to like do the creative thing and like have those conversations with your HODs and actors, and like that's a real treat. And then you go back into solidarity, right? And you're editing the thing every day by yourself, prisoner to your own thoughts, and then and then you do this, right? And then you have to talk about the movie and like constantly. And now, so I'm very much every time I'm in that position, like whatever position it is, I'm very much looking forward to the next stage. Like if I spend too much time by myself, I'm like, I really need to talk to people. You know what I mean? And right now, I'm like, I just want to uh go in the hole and start writing. That's very much where I'm at right now. But it's also I need to like really kind of take like a breath and just be like, this is incredible, everything that's happening, and I kind of need to soak it in, and then get in my fucking hole, just right.
Well, so let's kind of talk about that whole because I was reading some of the press release. I went into this movie. Something you should know about me, Francis. I do not watch trailers to movies. I will get if I'm in the movie theater and a trailer to a movie that I know I'm going to see starts to play, I walk out that motherfucker and I
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah,
in. So I
yeah.
knew nothing going into it. So when I read some of the notes afterwards, I found the story of how this script came to be, or at least where the idea came to be, pretty interesting. And like I said, the aspiring filmmakers, I was just curious if you could share kind of when that idea popped in your head because I thought it was pretty sweet.
um was it about touring like in bands and stuff, or was it okay?
Yes, that was
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so like if you don't mind, I'll just kind of go. I mean, this whole journey of getting this movie made is pretty fucking insane, and especially like if your listeners are aspiring filmmakers, I feel sort of like an obligation to share this story to give some inspiration. Um, so yeah, I my background is music. I have always been obsessed with film, but I kind of started playing drums at a really early age, and that was my whole life. That's all I knew. It was like I bought a van when I turned 18. I fucking hit the road and toured and shitty punk bands, and that was my life. I was always obsessed with movies, but it always seemed very, very unobtainable. Like it was just like, how do you even break into this? And I broke my wrist when I was like 28 years old, and couldn't play drums. I was in a cast for like 6 months, and so I picked up a T2I and a Canon T2I, and I made a short film around the house with my wife and I. Just didn't know what we were doing, kind of learning stuff on YouTube. Didn't even have a story. It was kind of just like, oh, this is a cool shot, that's a cool shot, and then eventually pieced it together and made a short. And then at that point, I was like, I think this is what I want to do. I think I have to do this, and it was a weird kind of. I mean, you're like almost 30 years old, you've been doing music your whole life, and then telling your partner like, I think I want to be a director. She was like, what the fuck are you talking about? So yeah, I kind of just like got. So from there I started writing scripts based on locations that we had free access to because we had no money. So I was just like, I would get my friends together. For the first one we did, and it was like nobody knew what they were doing. We just went out to the desert, and I was like, Scott, you're gonna be our AC, and Gabe, you're going to be a grip. And they were like, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, watch these YouTube videos. And we went out to the desert and we just figured it out. And we made this short film. Luckily, like, and it's another side story, but I kind of like haphazardly found my cinematographer, Mac Fisken, who has shot everything I've done. And he was there. He showed up and like realized nobody knew what they were doing. So he kind of like shepherded the whole thing and like was like, this is how you do this is how you do that. But anyway, we did this short film, and then like I did another short film called The Gemini Project because my buddy had a cabin up in Oregon and got in the tour van, got packed it full of my buddies and went out and shot this thing in
I
Oregon.
may. Really good, by the way. I ended up
Oh,
watching that after I got done with Last Stop, and really good. Just wanted to say that.
Oh, cool. Thanks, man. It was funny at the time when I made it, like, it was like during COVID or it was right before we released it during COVID. And everyone was just like, what the fuck is this, man? This is weird. Like nobody really got it. And I was like, all right, well, that was kind of a waste, but I like it. And but anyway, so my first short film, High Desert Hell, went to a festival in Cincinnati. And I flew out there. It screened, it's like 8 a.m. The first screening of the day after the opening night party, and nobody showed up. And I was like, I wasted my money. But there was this guy, James Clays. I know I've talked about this a lot, but like I think it's it's important to know. So he saw the short and was like, "Yo, I'll give you 50 grand for whatever you do next." And I was like, "That's insane! Like I can make 3 movies for that." Like literally, that's what I thought, because I'm doing the math with my short films. I'm like, "All right, $1,000. I got 22 minutes of screen time." You know what I mean? Like, so I kind of did what I was comfortable with or what I knew, which was I found the location, Four Aces in Palmdale, and I went there and took a bunch of pictures and drew an overhead and then wrote a script specifically for this location. Now, going back to what you were saying about like what the catalyst was for that, I mean, really it was the location first and foremost, because it was like I sort of always gravitate towards period pieces because cell phones suck. And I saw this place and I was like, cool, like this is I can craft a story here. And I think the catalyst for the story was I spent, like I said, I had mentioned, I spent a lot of time touring. I would find myself like in the middle of nowhere at these roadside diners, and like you walk in and it's fish out of water experience. Everyone's looking at you like you don't belong here, and like especially when you're playing in punk bands, right? Like, and so I just remember that feeling, and it was like, oh, like does everyone here know something? And like I'm late to the party, and it really stuck with me. So I think that was like the catalyst. But anyway, so I wrote this script and I was going to make it for like a micro budget version. And what we I ended up optioning the script to a company that like was like, we're going to make it for like $5 to $6 million. And I was like, oh my God, that's insane. Where do I sign? And so I optioned the script, and it was a shit show. It was the name game of like, oh, we're gonna get so and this person, and and that's the only way we can finance it. And like, they didn't really care about the story. It was just like, get a name and we'll finance it. And like, that's was really disheartening. And on top of that, we just weren't having any luck. Nobody wanted to sign on to a you know, first time feature filmmaker. Like that was just not happening. So as soon as the option expired, I pulled it and I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'd rather make this movie with my friends like I've always done. So I just started pretending like we had money, essentially, like, um, I, I used shot designer for every single shot. We just meticulously planned every single day. My cinematographer and um, I wrote letters to this cast. Like nobody auditioned. It was all just personal letters saying how big of a fan I was and how I wrote this part for them and blah blah blah. Um, got HODs on board. People that I talked to that were there for the right reasons. They weren't there for a paycheck. They were there because they believed in the story. And we basically were ready to go. It was like fucking tell me when, right? And like all, but we didn't have any money. So the guy who put in the development money, he had been messing around with me for a few weeks, just saying like, "Oh fuck it, dude, I'm just gonna sell my house and finance the whole thing." And I was like, "That's crazy. Don't do that. We'll figure this out." And then I started thinking like, maybe we won't. Maybe nobody's gonna want to fucking finance this movie. So I said, "Hey, I don't know if you're serious or not, but if you are, like, this is what it means. We can kind of nobody's gonna be telling us how to make this movie." And he did. He sold his house. And I say that, yeah, and that's how we financed it.
Fucking really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Holy shit.
yeah. So it was like as independent as you get. And I tell that story not to say, hey, find somebody who's going to sell their fucking house. Like it's not going to happen, right? Like it's like 1 in a billion. But that like I think a lot of people just wait for permission. And when things really started happening was when I just said, fuck it, I'm just going to start making the thing, like because it's independent film, you're not going to get paid to prep, right? Like and like you need to be committed to do that kind of stuff because you want to, not because somebody's paying you. So like just start making your movie. Start shot listing, start scouting, start like reaching out to actors, start talking to like, your HODs, put this thing together. That shit doesn't cost money, like maybe a cooler filled with some water bottles and like that's it, and some gas. Like that's all it takes in your time, and thank God we did that because we didn't have any time or money to make this thing. So all that prep just helped things move so much quicker. Like, I've been showing this thing off. I know this is video, so I can kind of show it off, but like this is sort of like the prep that my cinematographer and I did. We use shot designer. So like it's just
Yeah.
every single shot is meticulously planned, right? And it's like that makes things move. Like we couldn't have done this movie in 20 days if we didn't do that, and you're never going to get that much time to prep. So if you're like, oh man, things are taking forever, this movie's never going to get made, well, start prepping, start doing things because it's a lot easier to convince somebody to finance your movie if you're already making the movie, right? Then people are like, those financiers are going to be like, I want to be a part of this. This looks fun. It looks like it's already a thing. But if you're just like, I don't know, man, like scripts, like I'll start working when you pay me. Like good luck, anyway,
I
so that's
hope
my
you hear this, man. I hope my audience, I hope you hear this, man. Sometimes go out and utilize the free stuff. Do you hear
totally,
what it's saying? Just pound the pavement for a little bit and you don't know what's going to become of it. Sorry, sometimes
totally. No,
I get
no,
a little
sorry. And I,
passionate.
I get on my soapbox too, man. Because I'm passionate about it, and I think we are deprived of like good, more independent cinema. And I think like we need to take those risks. It's like nobody was going to finance this movie if James didn't do what he did. It's a period piece, like nobody, there's so many times there's just like, this industry has a specific mandate. And if it doesn't check those boxes, it's just like a no. And that really sucks, dude. It's not like it used to be. So, but if you can get people excited by starting to make your movie and like you said, just, hit the pavement, it's like you're gonna have a better shot.
I love that story, too. I really, you're just kind of sitting there, you're at a diner, and you're like, is everybody fucking, are they looking at me right now? Fuck. You know,
Yeah,
what'd be
yeah,
a good idea.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
something that you having the musical background, and I'm going to kind of rearrange some of the questions that I had here because you tackled a couple of them, but the score. So you being, coming from a music background, how does that relationship with Matthew Compton work? Are you letting him go, or because you are so in tuned, you've done music until you said what, 28, and then you kind of pivoted
Yeah, like I'm like
like it,
technically still in a band right now, but we never played. Yeah.
so it's like you're still in a band. Like I'm interested, how does that process look when you're sitting down with a composer?
Yeah, so I mean, I've scored all my own shorts, and I was planning on scoring this one. And then my son was born, and I was like, okay, I need to spend time with the family. I need to find a composer. So, um, I I forgot who I told this to. Maybe it was Jim. I was just like, it's kind of unheard of to have, especially like, sort of well-known composers demo for like a first-time filmmaker. But I was like, fuck it. Maybe if I just like reach out and write a letter or something and be like, hey, look, this is my baby. I'm a composer myself. Like it's hard to pick somebody, right? Can you just demo? So I ended up having like 8 different composers demo 2 scenes in the movie. One of the scenes is a spoiler, and the other is the scene of Jim doing the whole knife sales pitch to Joceline. And I heard Matthew Compton demoed for it, and it was just like immediately the he understood where to let the comedy breathe. And he's a comedy guy. Like he did Palm Springs, he did MacGruber, like, but he's also like he just nailed it. So I mean, you can add, I ask Matt, but I was very hands off with him. Like everything he sent me was just like, this is fucking great. This is perfect. Like, keep going, my dude. And then, obviously at the end, we sat down and like we fine tuned little things. Or I was like, oh, can you like stretch this and whatever, but no, dude, that's all Matt. Like Matt fucking um as the homies call him, cornbread. He killed it, dude. He's so damn talented, and I hope he wants to do score all my movies, because he's incredible. And he's also a drummer, so we speak like the same sort of language, you know. Um, any drummers out there know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well,
But
and I
that,
gotta think it also pays dividends in terms of beats for the story, not to get cliche and
yeah, yeah,
pretty hits, but being able to he does you don't need, like you said, you can kind of be hands off because he's already the way that you're writing the script, which probably subconsciously there's music coursing through your veins as you're
oh yeah,
writing
yeah,
that
yeah,
script. And dude, that probably makes it so much easier for you to kind of just relax a little bit. But
yeah.
I
He's
gotta
yeah,
the fact that you mentioned the whole comedy, once I saw he did Pop Star, Never
yeah,
Stop Popping, and
so
Palm
good.
Springs, MacGruber, and I'm just sitting here going, I don't want to say it's a complete deviation from what he's because like you said, he does hit those moments of comedy really well. But I also thought he does a goddamn good job of building tension as well.
Totally, yeah. No, he absolutely nailed it. It's funny, Palm Springs was also shot at Four Aces where we shot, and I was in a studio like when we were kind of wrapping things up, and he was like, "Man, I'm pretty sure I've ate at this diner before," and I was like, "No, you've scored a movie that was shot at this diner before." Uh, but yeah, dude, I don't know, I can't say enough great things about Matthew Compton. He's incredibly talented, and yeah, there was one other thing I was going to mention about him. Oh, the knife sales. I don't know if you heard that. Did you watch the credits at the end?
Yes, I did.
So the Odachi knife ad. Um, I wrote. So originally, I really wanted to like film an infomercial, um, and I had a particular actor in mind. I was like, oh, we got to go out to him. It would be so great, this post credit sequence. And then we just didn't have money, so I wrote the copy. I sent it to Matt, and he totally got it like right away. That's the thing. It's like I didn't have to explain anything. I just did a little voice memo, and then like maybe a couple hours later, he sent me exactly what you hear in the movie, and that's his voice pitched down, and it's just like I was like, yeah, done. It's in the movie. Like, yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the look of the film. I
Mhm.
thought it again top notch. Like it is razor sharp the look of this film. I thought Mac killed it from even the choice of some of the shots for particular instances. Again, no spoilers here, but I thought that we did a lot of things that we were familiar with, but it was different. Like this whole movie kind of feels that way to me, where it's like, I kind of, and I'm gonna blow smoke up your ass once we get at the end here, but I'll just say that there was moments where I'm like, this is elevated. Like this is like they took like what we may see in say, the last 10, 15 years of film, but we tweaked it just enough to make it pitch perfect. Like I don't
Mhm.
want to go shot
Yeah.
for shot, but I guess I kind of want to know again, kind of the partnership with Matthew. How does that look? And you already kind of touched on it in terms of, the constant pre-planning. And that was one of my questions. Like, are you kind of, because I know when I'm writing a script, like I'm nauseating with my storyboards, man. Like I just
Yeah.
like kind of go along and it's all done in advance. And for those of you listening, I hope you understood what he was saying about the whole pre-planning thing. You don't have a whole lot of time to be fucking around on set once you get everybody
No.
involved. So
Yeah.
I guess what does that relationship look like with you? Like because you're kind of coming in to the film world and he's a tried and true. How does that look?
Yeah. So I'll answer that question in like two parts. One, talking about the actual shots, and then I'll kind of talk about the nerdy shit with like lighting and everything. But um, so what I typically do is I'll shot list the whole movie, and then I translate my shot list into Shot Designer, and then Mac and I will get on a Zoom and we'll talk about there's like 70 scenes or something we broke it out into, and we will spend every single day talking about one scene, and we'll talk about one shot for hours. Like he is that level. Like I'm neurotic and fucking crazy, and he like is on board for it. Like he's down to put the time in. So, and then once we get through the entire movie, we go back to the very beginning, we start over again, because by the time you get to the end, you've created like your visual language, right? And then you get to the beginning again, you're like, oh, that doesn't fit in the thing that we've made. You sort of just like slowly start to understand what the visual language is. Like you set rules and you're like, oh, we're not going to do steady cam inside. And you set all these bullshit rules, right? Which is always helpful, but like it it's crazy that when you get to the end and you go back to the beginning, like you slowly start to see through every scene how it evolved. So we do that, and we will continue to do that on every project. And yeah, a lot of the times, it's like I really love committing to those like two shots and winners and finding intricate ways to like tell a story. I'm always thinking about, well, if we turn off the audio and the audience was watching this scene, what emotion does it evoke? And if like that's where I'm always coming from is like, of course, what is the optimal way to build tension? And that's like, well, just watch Hitchcock. But you want to like, if you want to convey an emotion, like there's a thousand different places to put the camera. But like, I always think, yeah, you turn off the audio. Where does the camera need to be to tell this story with no audio? And I think about that a lot. And then in terms of like the technical side to this, like we use Shot Designer, or sorry, what is it called? Shot Deck, and which is like a bunch of screen grabs from movies, and we will create a deck and we'll talk about like, the ratio of shadow side and this, and then we watch a bunch of movies and like we just have really long conversations about what the lighting is and what we're going for. And then we got lucky because we borrowed this camera package from my friend Chris. So we got to go out to the location, shoot stuff, test out different filters, um, create a LUT that we used on set. So every time we were looking at dailies, it was like, we were looking at something that was like 95% colored, and making adjustments. And uh, we got to shoot on these lenses. They're basically the first iteration of the super speeds. They're called B speeds. They shot Taxi Driver on them, and it's really cool. Like they have triangular bokeh, and they have just a lot of character. So that was fun. And then I like, as much as I love the look of film, it's such a I'm gonna get fucking ridiculed for this, but it's such a pain in the ass to work with, especially when you don't have a lot of money. You know what I mean? And one day I'd love to shoot on film, but it's just not worth it right now when you're dealing with like when you have a limited time, limited money, and there's tools out there now that like you can emulate film almost seamlessly. Dare I say? And it's been
Feel
crazy.
the
Like
hate mail from cinephiles filling up
yeah, it,
inbox right now. This motherfucker.
whatever, dude. I mean, like I've it's crazy when you talk to people and they're like, "Oh yeah, I spent like $30,000 on a short film because we shot on film." I'm like, "What? Like that's crazy, dude."
Yeah.
Like I get it. Like I love film is dope. I hope it never like I hope we're always using film, but like I'm not Christopher Nolan. Like I don't have that type of money. Um and like I honestly, dude, I've had a lot of friends that like love they are very much film aficionados, and they watched Last Stop and they were like, "Oh, what did you shoot on? You shot on film?" And I'm like, "No, it's all digital, dude. We just you add the elation and the gate weave and the grain and this and that, and like you get to a place that's pretty fucking convincing.
And I
Um,
was about ready to say it too, but I try so hard to refrain from top 40 comments. I really was being like, I'm telling you what, man, it looks like you shot it on film. But I hate like because like I don't know if you spend enough time around it, right? But like
yeah,
I don't know, like to me, why don't we switch the narrative? Look at how fucking good the execution was digitally. Like
yeah,
instead
totally,
of it
man.
like being, oh well, you didn't shoot this on film. No, like I shot it digitally, and this is still what it looked like. This is still what you can achieve.
Yeah.
Like just
And look,
just
and we shot. I mean, the hill that I really was gonna die on was like we shot everything practical, like all the VFX stuff. Like, um, it was all squibs. Like we blew that fucking tanker up at the end. Like, everything was practical, dude. Even the TV when they're watching the Rifleman, like that was practical, and that's not easy. It was like it took a whole room of equipment to get like the frame rate right and all that stuff. But I mean, there was like 83 VFX shots, I think, but it was all just removal. Like there was a giant warehouse outside of the diner that, you know, um, we had to take out of every single exterior shot, which was a fucking nightmare. But yeah, man. I mean, I don't want to go out here and say like I don't love. Of course, I love film. Of course, I do. Of course, I would love to shoot on film. It's just like we don't have the team and like the fucking manpower to do that. And you like I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, but when you're shooting on film, like things move so much quicker. And I actually agree with that to a point. Like I've AD'd a lot of stuff that is like music videos that we've shot on film. And like there is something where it's like, yeah, when that fucking thing's rolling, dude, you go. You don't fuck around, you know. And I totally get that. But um yeah, this was such a like quick shoot. It just we could not
May I be petty but endearing for one moment?
go for it.
If you would have used CG for keep it spoiler free for the violence in this,
Yeah, yeah.
I would have canceled the interview. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding you. Like it has gotten to the point now, and I'm not going to name any names. I tried to be is use the least amount of negativity as possible, but I'll just say very recently I have seen maybe you'll know what I'm talking about, maybe you don't. But between CG blood holes, I'm out. Like it takes me out of the movie. But I just saw a film recently, maybe you have seen the same one too, where we are now doing CG hand-to-hand combat, and we're not talking about Marvel movies. And bro, when I saw that, I just was like, what are we doing, dude? Like
Yeah,
what?
I talk about film and stuff, but like, and that's it's like, oh, it's getting in a place where it's really good and it's convincing. CG, no, like unless you're doing Planet of the Apes or some shit, like that works, right? But uh, no, dude, like squibs exist and they look fucking awesome, and like, they're cheaper to do squibs and like get it right in post. And that was really the hill that I was gonna die on, dude. Like there was many times where I was just like, no, you're wrong. It's got to be, we are doing everything practical. And like, and we did everything's, we used blanks for all the guns too. And like, this was post Rust. So it was, um, it was weird, but like also we were a legit production. Like nobody, we didn't rush anything. Like we were very, very safe about everything. I wanted everyone to feel safe, and so we really took our time and allocated the time during the day to make sure anytime there was a blank being fired, it was like we took our fucking time. Um, and I mean, honestly, that's one thing that I will say. I totally agree with uh having everything practical. I do think though there's really not a difference between a CG muzzle flash and a real muzzle flash. I think they look pretty much identical. The only time you miss the mark is when people forget to like add like the highlight on the actual gun, which happens. The biggest thing is for me is just performance. Like it's just performance. The actor really, you really feel it. But sometimes, dude, actually a lot of the times, I mean, have you used blanks on set before?
I have not, but I do have one rule. Keep it dark, keep it quick if you're gonna do the CG. It's that
Yeah,
simple.
yeah, but a muzzle flash looks perfect. Like it's one frame. It's one fucking frame. There's no difference whatsoever. And the crazy thing about it is when you use blanks, half the time you're missing it because it happens in between the 24 frames. So that we'll be like, "Oh my God, that was a great muzzle flash." And then you watch playback and you're like, "It's not there." And that happened a lot. Um, so for me, yeah, I mean, look, it's a lot safer to do CG muzzle flashes, but for me, it's just the performance is better. Um,
Man, I had a feeling that you were going to be a good egg, and I still have so many questions for you, but I
oh,
know
keep
I
it going, man. No, 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 no. I got time. Keep it going.
well, all right, all right. Hey, Sam, you heard it. I know you're there. You're lurking there, Sam. I'm just playing with you.
Damn,
So
wink, wink. Get me off this fucking thing. No, just kidding.
and here's the thing. I won't keep you much longer than the
Oh,
allotted,
dude, you're
but
good.
there
You're
was
going.
all right, cool. Character actors. You
Yes.
somehow were able to get what I would consider a blend of new faces, kind of I don't want to say all of them are leading the charge into new wave character actors, but what I think I was just shocked and loved and all these positive emotions that you somehow got the new wave and a couple old wave legends. I mean, between Gene and Richard, like who are about his character actor. And I don't want to say, I don't want to put this as scripture, but Richard Brake, in terms of acting and spectrum, may have my favorite moment in this film. And I can say it to you because it's not going to
Got
mean
it.
shit. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Like it came like I'm sitting there, like I'm in, like, right. I'm leaning in, listening to him. And then he says that. I'm like, God damn it.
It
All
will.
right.
Well, it's all one shot too, man. That was a fucking pain in the ass to get. I remember when we were doing that shot. We did one take, and he goes, "Fran, you're not gonna be on me for all that juicy stuff." And I was like, "No, no, no. This when you're saying all that, it's like it's kind of about Charlotte." And he goes, "Ah, you fucking cunt." And then he was so mad. And then after he watched the daily, he was like, "Ah, you were right. You were right." But no, honestly, Rich is like the sweetest guy ever, and he is just so damn professional and so good. And like, um, yeah, he scared the shit out of us during that take. Like, I didn't know he was going to go that bit. And I was, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, I looked around and everybody jumped. Um, and he was actually the first person to sign on.
Really?
Yeah, so I might have skipped over that when I was telling you the whole story, but when James gave the development money, he had a loose connection with Richard Brake because he's like buddies with Rob Zombie and had known Rich, and so I wrote Bo with Rich in mind, thinking like, oh, that's actually could maybe happen because we have that connection there. And he did. He read it and he called me and was like, I'm in. And we talked for hours. And every couple months or every few months, I would just call him and be like, oh, this is where we're at. I mean, that went on for like 3 years. Like, and every time he was like, I'm in, I'm game. Just like whatever it is, tell me when, I'll be there. And he stuck to his word. And I'm so, so thankful that he did, because like really he is um he's such a crucial part of this movie.
I am going to ruffle some feathers here because I like ruffling the whore crowd's feathers because I think they're very toxic. This may be Richard's one of my favorite roles of his and arguably his most polished, and it happened in your film. And I need that. I need the
I
record show.
I think Rich himself would agree with you.
Okay. See,
Yeah, I mean,
save your DMs.
yeah, I mean, ask him, but I mean, he's told me so. So like, yeah, Rich and I had a really cool thing happen. When I spoke to him years ago, 4 years ago now, like I had this whole backstory about Bo being like this blue collared worker and like in over his head and blah blah blah. I didn't want Rich. I wanted Rich to like have do something else besides like what we've seen Rich do. So, what the fuck? So
Still good. I
I
got you.
Cool. So um, that was sort of the idea we talked about, and then once we were actually making the thing, we did a table read, and he was in the UK, so he wasn't there. But the one thing I learned from that table read is like I got home and I was like, this doesn't work with that. I write backstories for everybody. I write bios for all the actors, and I was like, that doesn't work. He needs to be fucking terrifying. He needs to be like calm, collected, terrifying. And anyway, so I texted him and I was like, Rich, I need to talk to you about something. Do you have time to jump on a call today? He said, no, I need to talk to you about something. I was like, oh, fuck. Like, what is it,
I'm
dude?
out. I'm out. I quit.
Yeah. So we call, and he's like, you go first. You go first. And I was like, look, man. And I just told him, I was like, I think you need to be terrifying, blah, blah, blah. I'm so sorry. I thought he was going to be like, I've done that before and blah, blah. And he was like, mate, I had the same exact thought. You and I are on the same wavelength. And from that point on, there was just this level of trust. Like we were sort of just really, really in sync. So like, I think, I don't know if that wouldn't have happened. I don't know if he would have trusted me enough to like go this, as mellow as he did in this role. I think he was a little nervous about going like, underplaying it. And
I
now he
loved
loved
it. I
I
loved
know.
it.
Me too, man. I think he's phenomenal. every time I see him in this movie, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, man, he's a powerhouse. But yeah, anyway, so I just had such a great collaboration with Rich, and um, I really hope to work with him again. He's incredible.
Well, and you also have Jim in this, which shit, I even screened. I rented out a vintage theater. I'm in Toledo,
Uh,
Ohio. Rented out a vintage theater, showed The Wolf of Snow Hollow because I thought it was such a really
yeah, yeah,
interesting piece. And
yeah, yeah.
now I'm seeing him pop up more and more. And I have been thinking that for years now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
aren't we seeing more of Jim? Or even Joceline. You know, I just reviewed a movie with Nicholas, Red Right Hand from the Nelms Brothers. I just
Oh yeah.
talked about like these people that are now kind of coming to the forefront, and I'm here to see it.
Yeah, man. I saw Nick Logan and I Care a Lot. And uh I think when I was writing the script for Last Stop, and I had never seen Nick before, and I remember I remember turning to my wife and I was like, "Holy shit, that's Travis." And it's funny, he just was over for dinner the other night and he pulled out, or he found the letter that I sent him. Um and it was just that. It was like, "Hey man, like I saw you and I Care a Lot. Like I wrote the script. I think he'd be perfect for this character." And it was really funny because when we talked for like God, like 3 hours on a Zoom, and he was just like, "Look, dude, I'll be honest, man. I don't really like this part. Have played this before. I'm not really into it, but you seem cool enough. I'll do it. Whatever, dude." He's like, "But I'd rather play like whatever." I forgot who he wanted to play, and it was so fucking awesome because like the last day he was like, "Buddy, like I know what I said about not wanting to play this character, but I think it's my favorite character I've ever played." And it was really heartwarming. And it's funny because Nick has totally like adapted the character of Travis like into his everyday life. Like motherfucker, where he like crops all of his t-shirts and cuts off the sleeves now. It's just like his style. And it is. I spent 2 weeks with him in Spain for Sitches, and like every day he's just wearing like a fucking crop top, cut off. So he's the yeah, he's one of my best friends now. He's awesome.
Turned to my chick and I was like, "Hey, for my birthday, it's right around the corner. If you could get me a Bigfoot for President
Uh,
T-shirt, that would be
that's
fantastic."
actually James, the guy who financed the movie. That's he owns a clothing company, and that was his shirt. And I wrote that into the script when I was writing it because I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna write a Boogeyman shirt into the script. This will get him super excited." And now that the movie's out, I'm like, he's out. He doesn't have any stock of that. I'm like, James, make more make more Bigfoot shirts. People are gonna want it, you know. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure he'll print some more. Yeah.
So I am gonna abide by the time limit, but I do have some shit that I want to tell you. So in closing, just a couple things, sir. One
Mhm.
thing I wanted to tell you how appreciative I am for you taking the time to come on this piece of garbage show,
Yeah.
especially the news that I just read this week. You're about to shoot into the stratosphere, my friend. So the
Okay.
fact that you took time to come on this show, I forever grateful, forever a fan. Well, I was going to be a fan regardless after I saw the film, but
Oh man,
now
thanks.
in talking with you, definitely fan for life, going to follow you anywhere. You are invited back whenever you want to
I'd
come.
love to,
So,
man. I'd love to. We'll talk about Evil Dead when
uh,
that's all done, and I'll
I
come back.
wasn't going to say anything. You did it. I wasn't going to say a fucking word, dude. Because
That's
like it's like so I've had Cronenberg's son on before, and like
oh,
I
sounds
don't
great.
know, like going into it, like I was just like, I'm not mentioning his dad. I'm not like I'm
Oh
not
yeah,
like I'm
that's
not gonna
really
fuck,
cool of you. Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like that just seems like a slap in the fucking face. And which brings me to my next point that I'm going to tell you. Forgive me for blowing smoke, but I have to. So when I get done watching these films, then that's when I start to do a little research, read what people are saying about it. And I got to be honest, I'm annoyed, Francis. I'm annoyed because I felt like there was several of them. You know what? I don't give a fuck. I'll throw them to the wolves. Most notably, Variety. And if I have to hear the fucking phrase Tarantino-esque one more time, like I think I'm just gonna blow a fucking gasket. I'm gonna riot, dude. Because here's the thing. I understand, and this is no disrespect to you. Like if you read any of those articles that was like, oh, it's Tarantino, this, blah, 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 and you were like, fuck yeah. Like, I'm glad. I'm glad for you. But again, it's kind of like what I said earlier about shifting the narrative. Like You want to know what I thought when I got done with this film? Then I read a couple of those reviews. I thought this isn't Tarantino-esque. This isn't Coen Brothers-esque. If your act two is most people's act threes. This is Gillespie-esque.
Yeah.
And I, I think we need to start shifting that focus and giving filmmakers as elite as yourself. And yes, sir, I don't give a fuck that this is the first feature. You're elite, okay? I watch a lot of shit. I know the
Uh,
goods when
Thank
I
you, man.
see the good, and this is Gillespie-esque, my friend.
No, thank you,
So,
sir. I appreciate that, man. I am a big fan of Tarantino. I'm a big fan of Coen Brothers, right? I mean, was that on the forefront of my mind when I was writing the script? No, it wasn't, right? Like it was film noir, and it was Don Siegel and Sam Peckinpah. But look, these are the movies that also inspired Tarantino, and that's okay. Like Tarantino is fucking never missed, in my opinion. He's a
same.
fantastic filmmaker. Like, of course, he's influenced me. Like, um, I love movies. I watch multiple movies a day, and it is just like inevitable that your influences are going to sort of, like bleed into your work at some point. Like I just rewatched Stanley Kubrick's The Killing and the ending with all the money flying around. I was like, "Oh fuck." But is that where I got that? I don't know. Like it definitely wasn't intentional, but like, it all becomes sort of like you kind of just inherently just sort of write your favorite things into your stories, and no, I don't take offense to it at all. I think it's like it's definitely praise, and it's really crazy. Like yeah, I read that Variety article yesterday and I was like, holy shit, this is insane. Look, I thought we were like my fear of making when I was making this movie was like it's gonna have like a fucking 4% on Rotten Tomatoes. You know what I mean? Like that's your biggest. So all this like positive stuff has been really, really wild. But I hear what you're saying and I appreciate it, man. I really do. No.
Yeah, I mean, even people that aren't cinephiles. So I always use my partner as an example, because she doesn't like. Let's just be honest, she doesn't give a shit. Like
Mhm.
she'll watch them with me and take part and offer critiques here and there. But at the end of the day, I kind of use her as kind of like the masses. And as soon as the credits rolled, man, she was like, "Well, that was fucking awesome." And
Uh,
and like I'm sitting there still processing it, like, "Oh my gosh, this was good. This was good. This beat was great. This." And like all I can tell you, and believe me, I don't give a shit if you believe me or not. Very rarely when credits roll does she go, "Hey, that was fucking awesome."
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's great. That's sort of my caliber of movies as well with my wife because she falls asleep in every fucking movie. So
All
if
right.
she if she just stays awake for a movie, then I'm like, okay, like I just watched a buddy of mine's movie and like I texted him, I was like, you got the highest praise. My wife actually watched the entire thing and didn't fall asleep, and that says a lot, my dude. And he was like, "Thank you." um, so yeah, I get it, man. But no, thank you. That really, I do believe you, and I appreciate it, man. That's really really fucking cool. Thank
Good.
you.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on, sir. I am going to let you go, and then I'm going to spend another 2 minutes just retelling them where everything is, but you don't have to stick around for that. Again,
Okay.
thank you so much. You are welcome on here anytime, and it doesn't even need to be discussed. Like, I mean, of course, I want you to discuss your movies on here,
Yeah, yeah.
but if you just want to fucking talk about Peck and Paw, hey, come on, let's
Let's
do it.
do it, dude. Let's do it. I'd love that, man. If you're on Instagram and stuff, hit me up, and we'll keep the conversation going.
You got it. And in fact, to that point, not that anybody cares about this will be up shortly. Like I said, no editing. We're gonna have this up on all the socials, and I will get at you on Instagram, sir. Thank you
At
so much.
Francis
Thank you so
Galluppi.
much.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, man.
Oh, Galluppi. So wait a minute. You've been let me say it wrong the whole time? The whole time, Francis.
I'm
Come
so
on.
sorry. I just hate doing being that guy, dude.
Oh,
I'm so
fuck's sake,
sorry. That's
man.
okay.
I was so
Galluppi, Galluppi.
nervous at the beginning because I
No,
was like,
no.
I
It's
was I
totally fine. Trust me. I've gotten way worse, dude. I've gotten like Guadalupe and like I've gotten it all, man. It's totally fine. I just had to throw that in. I was like, Galluppi, Galluppi. But no, yeah, at Francis Galluppi, dude, seriously. It looks like it's Galluppi. My name is spelt like it looks like Galluppi, so I totally get it. Um
Here's the thing, like I was actually struggling. I was like, okay, make sure that you ask him how to say his last name properly, Galoopi. But then, like, I'm kind of insane. I had to fight the urge of saying Francis like Pee Wee Herman Big Adventure
Oh
this
God, I know.
episode.
Yeah.
Francis, but I was like, first of all, he's probably heard that 5 million fucking times in his life, and second of
Yeah.
all, not very
Well, that and
professional.
you call me Francis one more time and I'll kill you. You know, like that. I've heard that my entire life, dude. Yeah.
Okay, well, so I fucked up the last name, and I should have utilized the
That's
from
totally okay. Totally okay, man. I get it in every interview, so it's totally fine.
Oh my God! You
Yeah,
know
yeah,
what? Get the noose. Get the
yeah,
noose.
yeah, yeah.
All right, brother. Anytime, anytime. I'm
Awesome.
very
I appreciate it, man.
appreciative, sir.
Cool. Thank you so much, man. Have a great day.
Hey, you too, brother.
All right, cool, man. See ya.
All right, we are going to get Francis out of here. Holy shit. Holy shit, gang. Now, there's just sometimes there's just sometimes right off the jump that it was going to be. In fact, and he doesn't know this, but in fact, he really, he really got me just really frazzled in the beginning because he was so cool before we started to roll the mic. And then I do this thing where like I flip the switch. I'm like, all right, this is going to be a cool interview or whatever. And then I start getting excited. And then when I start getting excited, I start making mistakes. So listen to the intro, which is where I'm just like, oh, he's going to be a cool interview. Blah, blah, blah. And then once we get into it, I calm the fuck down a little bit. But now that I have been calling him by the wrong fucking name the entire fucking episode, God damn it. Galluppi, Francis Galluppi. All right. So we got the last stop in Yuma, the last stop in Yuma County in select theaters now. You can also stream it at Fandango at home right now. Well Go USA presents The Last Stop in Yuma County. Francis is a good egg. Next time, Francis, though, be that guy. Just correct me. It's all right. The Last Stop in Yuma County. Well Go USA presents out now. No excuses, gang. Ella Cinema. We gone.